going to be talking about the end of another trading card game. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more awesome content. Now, I want to talk about the death of MetaZoo today. And yes, I know we're a Yu-Gi-Oh channel. My expertise is Yu-Gi-Oh, talking about this. But you have to remember, Yu-Gi-Oh exists within the sphere of the trading card game world. And this actually is very interesting. If anything, I wanted to talk about this to give you detail as to what I'm seeing and the story that is going to be following that you might be interested in. So, what in the world was MetaZoo, and how do I know about it? What was it? It's a card game that came out during the pandemic. Basically, it was based on cryptids. I've heard a lot of people were involved with it. There were people that did say to reach out to MetaZoo to get product to promote. I never actually did that. It's actually how I'm a little bit more familiar with it, because there were other YouTubers that recommended, hey, MetaZoo, if you reach out to them, they'll give you product to advertise for them and things like that. But that was like on the base level of things. I've seen other YouTubers talk about it fairly recently, but basically it had ties with the Charizard Kingpin and things like that. I do highly recommend looking into the history of MetaZoo, as developed during COVID. A lot of advantage to the free COVID era money that existed. We don't talk a lot about that, but 2020 and the free money that existed in the trading card game world was nuts, man. Like, it was crazy. So, what in the world happened today? Alright, so my vested interest in the game was just heard about it. I've heard about Mothman. Mothman was the cool thing that existed from the game. Like, this is the thing they were doing. There were NFTs involved with it. Well, today they announced the company is closing doors, and that's it. It's donezo. But here are the interesting things that made me want to make a video here to bring this into the spotlight. Evidently, this company owes $30,000+ to people for tournament prizes. Their Hello Kitty era launch was pretty much a failure the way it looks. They had a roadmap for products all the way up through the end of 2024, and that's just the beginning of this. Now, MetaZoo has had a pretty bad name throughout most of the game for, it's just a bunch of vendors and a bunch of resellers, sitting here, feeding each other and going, and I actually just joined the marketplace today because they closed all their social media, which is hilarious. Their official Discord got imploded, I think, on the 31st of, or literally on the last day of 2023. So that was already a terrible sign. The writing was on the wall at that point. Like, how are you going to close your official Discord and not expect people to go, what? That's actually a hilarious point, by the way. If a company makes an official Discord and they're like, we're closing this, peace out, guys, like, this is the end. Strange. You know what I mean? Now, I've also heard a few people talk about, why there was a player base for this. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. People believed in the game, whether or not they were investors or, the evil people that were just wanting to resell it and flip over. There were people invested in the game, and at this moment, there still are people actively invest in the game. So why couldn't the game pull a Force of Will? Why couldn't the game, just go down to these massive short runs and just continue on existing? That's the thing that I'm interested in. Is Force of Will is the perfect little child sitting here. It's not super popular. It had its era. People still know and they still play the game. I mean, I talked about Force of Will on here a couple of times, all right? I have nostalgia for the game. I enjoyed it, all right? It is a thing. It still exists. But how does a game that looks like it's doing okay just explode over time to, more rumors going, hey, they owe prize money. I don't know if you guys saw on TCG Player, but you might have noticed that there was a MetaZoo X Hello Kitty thing that popped up at the top over the past, little bit of time. And if you clicked on that, the product went from $300 down to $150, and they slashed the price. They had to refund a bunch of these people money on their purchase that was involved in this. Actually, that was a whole debacle, and that was with TCG Player, of all things. So your roots for MetaZoo were involved in the company that we all buy our cards from via the marketplace. Think about that for a second. So, now that the game company has said we're done so here, now what's going to start to happen is going to be very interesting. All right, one, I highly recommend keeping an eye on this story. I will be. I'm probably not going to be commenting on it anymore. But over the next few days or weeks, just out of the curiosity of this development, check back in on some of the MetaZoo channels. See what stories develop out of this. Because this is one of those interesting swan events that we get to see in the trading card game world that, we'll have to wait and see what stories come out. Developments like this are going to be very interesting. Now, on the flip side of that equation, we get to see the next interesting thing. How is the old product / community / market going to handle this? All right, there are a lot of people out here that genuinely enjoyed this game. All right, whether or not it be for the art or the playability, I don't even know how to play MetaZoo. I can't name a single person that I've ever talked to that has ever casually brought up, hey, you want to learn how to play MetaZoo, or I know how to play MetaZoo. That has never been brought up to me ever. The only thing that's been brought up to me about MetaZoo is, hey, look, it's a trading card game with NFTs, or Mothman. And Mothman is the more specific example that I bring up over this, because I feel like that was the more interesting little thing along the way. So, developing stories going to be very interesting to track. The death of a trading card game in the trading card game world does scream echoes, believe it or not, across the board to all of the card games. All right, you might not believe this, but this game dying, a lot of the smarter people, a lot of the stores are going to pay attention to this now, because a lot of telltale signs that people in this industry are going to take note of, and this is not going to happen again, all right? But a lot of people are like, well, this was just a trading card game built, take advantage of the free capital that was floating around. Yeah, it seems like that. I'm not going to lie about that. Also, the comments of the marketplace being an 85% reseller to a 15% actual little Timmy wanting to pick up product, is I'm also very curious to know what LGS has got stuck with what, and also there's so much unfulfilled product right now with this. I'm very curious to hear stories about how distros are going to handle that, and actually how at the distro level they're handling this, because now the distros are going to get their hands burned. And when distros get their hands burned, it's not good. I'm also curious to know how many lawsuits are going to come out of this, if any. That's another interesting story. All right, I know like this isn't Yu-Gi-Oh related, but it's so interesting just on the basis of wanting to learn about these sorts of things. And, to the people that look at these other trading card games out here and see these existence, the people that enjoy other things, this is a reality. MetaZoo didn't even make it. It was, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. They didn't even make it the full fifth year. They exploded on the fourth. So think about that. There's also a bunch of artist stories about them leaving due to pay cuts and things like that. It's a whole debacle, man. Like, I do recommend looking into some of this stuff. It is a read. Trust me on this. So, another one bites the dust. If you are curious about the MetaZoo market, go give it a look through TCG Player. Some people dislike the art, some people like the art, but you know what? If you want a Mothman, I guess now's never been the better chance not to consider buying one, I guess. Well, You guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll be back in the morning for Market Watch. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.